Hi everybody, my name is Lynette. Thanks for clicking my channel. Have you ever noticed that when you go out shopping for plants that there tends to be a pattern of what you're buying? Some years maybe you're buying all pink flowers or purple flowers or you're into shrubs or trees or whatever. Well, this year I've noticed that I am into dark foliage. So in today's video, I thought we would explore my garden, look at the dark foliage that I have and ways that I'm incorporating it, and how I'm going to work in some new dark foliage plants into my garden. So come along as we explore the dark side of foliage. Last year I bought this Eclipse Hydrangea. It has beautiful dark leaves. Let me show you. You see how beautiful and dark those leaves are? And the flowers are this beautiful shade of red. Beautiful plant. Now, Eclipse hydrangeas bloom on old wood, which means that I need to make sure that these stems don't die back all the way to the ground over the winter, because right now it's putting on the buds for next year. So what I think I'm going to end up doing is piling a whole bunch of leaves on top of this, and it is right next to the steps or front porch as you enter the house, so we do pile a lot of snow on this area. So I'm hoping that between the leaves and the snow that it will protect these stems so that next year the plant will start out this high and continue to grow. Now I do have one little bud that did make it over the season, so that's coming back. But I love this plant, and I would basically grow it not just because it's a hydrangea, but because I love the leaves and the leaf shape and the color of them. I think it's worth growing just for that alone. For me, the hydrangea flowers are going to be just an extra bonus. But hydrangea Eclipse, I think we're going to give it a try. This year I planted begonias with this dark foliage underneath my river birch, and this is surrounded by a sea of green hostas, and it makes such a bold statement. And I think part of the reason is because of the dark foliage. If this foliage was green with the red, it'd still be beautiful, but it wouldn't contrast as much with the green foliage that is surrounding it. So look for ways in your garden where you can use the dark foliage to set it apart from a sea of green. Big bold leaves on themselves are a showstopper, but make them black big leaves, something that is very unseen around, New York State. These are a tropical plant, and this is a real showstopper. I don't think this container would be as striking if we had, say, a green elephant in here. The black really makes a difference, and I've used it as a unifying plant between all the pots along the front of my garage and along the side. This is one of the planters along the north side of the garage. It gets sun starting from 3 o'clock until probably about 8 o'clock at night. The unifying factor between the planters out front and on this side of the garage are the elephant ears, and what a statement they make. But unlike the planters out front, which was more of a silvery and purple feel to it, I decided to go with bright colors out here. So I used the concoleus with this chartreuse and the dark vein that ties back to the dark foliage. I added a touch of pink in the fuchsia. I added a polka dot plant that has the pink and the dark veining in it. We have a calla lily. We have some yellow begonias that I thought kind of tied back to the chartreuse of the concoleus. So you can see that the dark foliage can be used not just with silvers, which looks fantastic, but you can also use it with bright colors. It can be a great unifier if all your plants have a little bit of darkness to them. This is one of my most favorite parts of my garden. I love all the textures, the bold leaves, the different color foliage, but I think I could use a little bit more black. So I'm going to try and incorporate some right next to this pot. So let me show you here. So my plan is to put some dark foliage right in this area right here. Let me show you what my choices are. I have 3 candidates. I have a heuchera, I have a sedum, and I have an astilbe. My thought process is I have lady's mantle and thyme in the front, which is really, really short and low. And then I go up to this really tall plant, which is 3.5 feet tall. So I need something that's going to bridge the gap. So my first thought was the coral bells. And I think you can see what a nice contrast and a step up that gives me in the garden. So that's a real plus. The problem with the coral bells, I think, is that they bloom right now, and I'm not necessarily looking for something that's blooming this time of year. So while I think it's perfect, I'm wondering if there's a second choice or a better choice. Choice number 2 is sedum, and there are some really dark sedums on the market. So I could get 3 or 4 of them and put them in here. And again, we get that look of the step up with the dark foliage. The nice thing about the sedum is that it's a really structural plant. It's not shrubby, but it'll stand the test of time. It'll stand up through all kinds of weather, and it'll be there till late in the season. The only problem that I see is that that's kind of very rich soil right there, and sedum kind of likes it more on the dry and lean side. So I'm afraid if I put that in there, it may start to splay open and not be as sturdy as I want it to be. And this is a full sun area, so the sedum will love the full sun, so will the coral bells. But again, I'm not 100% sure that that's the right plant for the right space. My third option isn't very big right now. This is Perennial Astilbe. This is Dark Side of the Moon by Proven Winners. And when it is mature, let's see, it gets to be 24 inches high, 28 inches high. So it will get to be probably almost as tall as the coral bells. The other thing that I like about it, it's sun or shade. It does like to be more on the wet side, so this will stay damper because of the leaf mulch that I use. I can also keep an eye on it, and if it needs to be watered, which I don't like to water my plants, I can always hose it down until it gets well established. Right now it's a little short, but I think putting that in here again, we'll add that little bit of texture, or the step up. It does have a little bit of a finer leaf shape, which is a nice contrast to the big bold leaves behind it. And it will get purple flowers that I'm hoping, sorry the mosquitoes are bad, later in the season. I really don't want it blooming in the next month. I hope it will hold off and start to bloom maybe at the end of July, beginning of August. But I really think I'm going to do the Astilbe here. I have about 5 of them that I can put in right there, and I think we'll give it a shot. But again, there's no right or wrong answer to this. This is just whatever you think can work. And if this doesn't work, then I'll just move them someplace else and try one of these other things. So I think I'm going to put the Astilbe there. This is another area of the garden where I'm going to add some dark foliage. Now, it wasn't that I was really searching for dark foliage for this part. I was looking for a plant that fit a specific need. I wanted something that blooms this time of year, that is rather tall. This is about maybe 30 inches tall, 2 feet to 30 inches tall. But I wanted something that I could chop down later in the season. And the reason I need to chop it down is because this is a limelight hydrangea. And by the end of the summer, it is going to be all the way touching those phlox, the green phlox in the background. So whatever I put in this space that's available for something to grow and flower right now needs to be tall now, but shorter later in the season. And I have chosen the Boom Chocolata geranium from Proven Winners. I think it's going to fit the bill perfectly. The dark foliage is an added benefit, again, just a nice contrast. And if I remember correctly, the daylily next to this is Pandora's Box, which is white and it has kind of a purpley eye, which will tie in nicely with the dark foliage. But I chose this more because I'm going to be able to chop it down later in the season and it still has chance to grow and do its thing before the hydrangea takes over. I do have a little bit of repetition going here, which is really nice. You can see the Boom Chocolata here. There's some dark penstemon there. So we have front of the border, we have back of the border, and then if I add that Astilbe, which is going to go right back in there, that's kind of in the middle of the border. So we have a trio of dark foliage plants, and I think that's going to add just a touch of consistency to this part of the garden. If you like the look of my front planters where I had the elephant ear with the silver foliage and the purple, those are all annuals. But if you want to do a perennial combination, you can get the same kind of look by using a silver artemisia, our purple coral bells, and a geranium. This little geranium has a purple flower with a dark, dark black center. I'll move in closer so you can see this, but that would be a beautiful combination to have in the garden. And what's really nice about it is that you're not relying on this to bloom. You're not necessarily relying on this to bloom. So the blooms are a bonus for these. This is what ties it all together, but even when this just goes to a basic green, it's still a pleasing combination. So you don't always have to work just with the flowers and match flowers together. Sometimes the foliage, which is really more important because the foliage lasts all season long. This is where you really want to put your energy, is into foliage plants, and then use the perennial flowers as just an added bonus. But we'll come in closer so you can see how beautiful this looks together. Along with our theme of mixing foliage together, I wanted to share with you this combination. This is a 9-bark, beautiful shrub with dark foliage. This is a hydrangea, and if we move in closely, you'll see that there are beautiful dark stems on this hydrangea. And it just looks so stunning next to the dark foliage of the 9-bark. If you were a flower arranger, these are the kind of things that you would be putting together. And you can do that same kind of thing in your garden. The other thing that we could add to this is a daylily. And just look at how beautiful that daylily with that dark eye coordinates with the foliage on the 9-bark. Stunning. Stunning combination. Again, the daylilies aren't going to bloom all season, but you'll have this strappy foliage. The 9-bark obviously is a shrub and it's going to keep its foliage that color. The hydrangea will keep its stems, and hopefully maybe it'll get some flowers on it depending on your weather and whether it blooms on old or new wood. But a nice, nice combination there. When it comes to placing your dark purple foliage, there's some things to consider. I bet all of you can really see this Scotch Thistle. It's standing out, it's a wow, and I bet you're all going, what on earth is that? And the reason you see it so well is because it's contrasted beautifully with the dark green of the rhododendron in the background. Probably hardly any of you are noticing this Moonlit Masquerade penstemon. I think it's Moonlit Masquerade, I'll put it on the screen, that's down at my feet. You really can't see it because it gets lost between here and the rhododendron. Let me get out of the way so you can see. Can you see how you don't even really notice it there? It just blends in. So when you're planting purple or dark foliage, make sure that it has something up against it that contrasts, that allows you to really see it to its best. So I'm planning on moving some of the things in this area to make it better stand out, and this purple penstemon definitely needs to go someplace a little bit brighter with a nicer backdrop. Here in my shade garden is a plant everybody should be growing if they have the conditions for it. This is kind of a woodland area. There's nice, rich, loamy soil. Stays kind of damp because I use so much leaf mulch on it. It's nice and loose soil. It's not full sun. It gets sun late in the afternoon, and so this never really bakes here. This is called Simisifigua. That's the old-fashioned name, which I like to say that, Simisifigua. But now it is called Actea, and this is commonly known as snake root. It's a beautiful lacy foliage. In the late season, it's going to send up large stalks of white flowers, and they smell delicious. This is just a knockout plant. It's hard to find, but if you can get your hands on it, I would plant some if you could. It's really just wonderful. So the dark foliage is in a shady section, but because it gets a little bit of sun, it shows up. And I've also paired it with some yellow, so that contrasts with it. You've got some yellow back here, so it helps it instead of it just disappearing into the background like the penstemon did over on the other side of the garden. So snake root, put that on your list. When it comes to purple foliage, it's hard to beat a royal purple smoke bush. That's this huge plant in the background there. Now it does need full sun to reach its best coloring, but it is a beautiful plant. Now, Proven Winners does have a smaller variety. This one is an old-fashioned one, and obviously it has gotten very, very tall. So you can get a smaller one, but beautiful, beautiful color on this plant. When it comes to trees with dark foliage, consider the Royal Frost Birch. A beautiful white trunk, and then up top, beautiful foliage in a burgundy color. Really a knockout. And again, you can see this white trunk stands out very nicely up against the dark of the green background. So this could be a plant to help lighten up a shady kind of area, or it could be a nice specimen plant in the middle of the yard, the front yard, where you can just let it do its thing and spread out and become magnificent. Now, word of warning, birch are very messy plants, so they drop a lot of branches and they're not very long-lived. So this is just something to enjoy while you have it, and it'll probably live 20 years. So we've got many more years to enjoy this, but the Royal Frost Birch, dark foliage, white trunk, another one that should be on your list. There are a lot of varieties of 9-bark that have dark foliage, but you can also find flowering plants like Weigelias. This is Wine and Roses Weigelia. Now, it's flattened out because the snow came off the roof this year and just totally wiped it out. So I wanted to let it bloom, and probably this week I'm going to go in and I'm going to cut it right to the ground and let it regenerate. But it has beautiful dark foliage, beautiful flowers. This time of year, we're in mid-June right now, and it's just finishing flowering. So if you're looking for dark foliage, a Weigelia may do the trick. There's also, Proven Winners also has Weigelias with dark foliage and white flowers. So there's a Weigelia for you out there, believe me. And this looks really, really nice because our house is kind of a greeny sage gray, so that dark foliage just stands out beautifully against it. But I would look for Wine and Roses or any dark leafed Weigelia. I bet it'll fit into your landscape and be a showstopper. I see a honeybee on the clover. I see a honeybee on the clover out here. Yay! This whole side of our yard is all white clover. We planted it for the honeybees. Of course, we mow it just like the regular grass, but we've had no honeybees this year. Oh wait, I see 2. So the honeybees are here. Thank goodness, thank goodness. That's a good sign. I had such plans for this area last year. I dug up all the hostas, I divided them. I planted this Alium in between each of the hostas, expecting to get these great big purple balls, and I thought it would be stunning. So English cottage garden looking, but I've got to be honest, I'm rather disappointed. While these Alliums are great and they're thriving, they're not the color purple I was looking for. They're actually a little too dark. I think they get lost in the garden. You don't see them as much as you would if they were pale purple. What do you guys think? I think they get lost. I might have to dig them out. Tell me what you think in the comments. If you do some looking around, I'm sure you will find some dark leaf foliage that will suit your need and be a knockout in your garden. So I hope I give you some ideas on how to use them, ways to think about using them, and what works and what doesn't when you're talking about dark foliage. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, subscribe, and please tell me if you think those allium are getting lost and missing in the background because they're such a dark purple color. So thank you so much. We'll see you in the next one. I hope you can get out in your garden and have a great day. Take care and bye-bye.